Hi, today I'm going to talk about why I got started on YouTube. My name is Leah Chantel, and today I'm going to explain why I ended up going on YouTube. And when I was starting out, and even before that, I was a librarian and I was somewhat comfortable public speaking when I was talking about practical topics. So I would go to library conferences and talk about topics about librarianship. But back then, I was very, very private about my spiritual life. I didn't enjoy as much sharing about my spiritual beliefs, except for people who I knew were safe, like really good friends from Toronto or people like that I knew I could trust. But otherwise, I was kind of guarded and not trusting other people to share this information. I thought it was too valuable and that people were not necessarily receptive enough in order to really receive the wisdom and the knowledge that I had learned when I was younger. But anyway, going back to the library public speaking, after I did a couple of conferences, I went to a Toastmasters group and had a really bad experience with Toastmasters. No offense, Toastmasters, I'm not saying you're all bad, but just this particular group was bad. I tried to give a talk about libraries to my Toastmasters group one time, and they just said it was bad, and they had no constructive feedback for me on how to make it better. It was a really terrible experience, and it made me shut down. Like, I didn't want to be on video at all, and I didn't want to start a YouTube channel or do any video on social media for a really long time after having that bad experience. And then later, I started. So you might be wondering, well, why did you start? And it's because intuition ended up being such a valuable thing that I learned in my life that I really wanted to share with others, because I found that people were not necessarily appreciating it enough or understanding it enough. And so I wanted to start teaching how to use your intuition the right way. And there are some intuitives who use their intuition the wrong way. They invade other people's privacy. They DM and say, hey, I can give you a reading. And that's exactly the wrong way to do things. And when intuitives or psychics do that kind of thing, it actually gives the whole industry a really bad reputation. And that's why there are other professionals in other industries that sometimes kind of pick on this industry, and then it gets more difficult to share the information, which is so valuable, because there are these people who are bad people who are doing bad business practices out there who malign the whole practice of being intuitive. And then that makes it tougher to share with people and talk to people about why it's so valuable. But if you've ever been in an abusive relationship, your intuition is so valuable, and you've probably already started developing it if you are in an abusive relationship or you have been in the past, because we use our intuition to survive. We try to predict and anticipate what the abuser is going to do so we don't get hurt. And in order to stay safe, we sort of start predicting things in advance. And then we actually learn how to survive. The only problem with this, though, is that sometimes our ability to predict things gets in the way of having real, authentic relationships. And we really have to let go and let people come as they are, rather than try to anticipate what they're going to do next, because it can be a form of control if we're not careful with that ability. And that's not good in relationships. However, it's still a very helpful skill to know how to survive if you've ever encountered a person who has been difficult in your life, regardless of whatever area of life, whether it's work or personal, that they were in. You can use your intuition to kind of anticipate and predict what they'll do next. But the real trick with abusive relationships is you should be trying to get out of them as quickly as you can. Now, sometimes it's not that easy. If we have a job, sometimes we need the paycheck, and so it's not that easy to change. Having said that, it's worth it. It's not easy, but it's worth it. And it's same with a marriage. If you pick the wrong person by mistake at another time in your life when you were less conscious, it's worth it to get the divorce. But it's also worth it to learn how to select people. And intuition helps you to do that. When you know how to select properly, then you're going to avoid things like divorce because you'll be happy with the partner that you picked. And it may not be the person intellectually you anticipated would be right for you. Often our intuition will guide us to somebody completely different, but turns out to be a really good fit for us in terms of partnership. And so the reason why I'm teaching these tools is because I don't like seeing people in pain and suffering and going through divorce. I don't like people having their money or their possessions stolen or being physically hurt because of their partners in relationship. You know, I also don't like in our society that rent housing is going up so much, because what's going to happen as a consequence is that people who are already in abusive relationships are going to create more excuses to just stay and continue to be abused. And when people like that are abused, they don't share their gifts with the world. And when they don't share their gifts, the world is a little bit darker. But if we can encourage people to get out of those narcissistic relationships, regardless of the cost, regardless of whatever sacrifice you need to make, sometimes it's just worth it to make it, because it's worth having your mental health back. It's worth having your safety in check. It's worth having a beautiful life in order to work hard and cover the costs of everything. Sometimes it's a bit more complicated than that, because there could be children involved and they could be underage, and that's when it gets really tricky. If you ever decide to have children with somebody, you really have to make sure that they're the right person, right? Because then the legal details of that can get quite complicated. But the part about intuition and being able to select the right person, select the right job, select the right city to live in, these things are huge in life, and they really impact the quality of your life. And when you can make decisions like that out of clarity, and you're not being bullied by other people or trying to seek approval in the process of making your big life decisions, and you just go with yourself and you trust yourself, that's when your life is really going to open up and change. And that's why I wanted to start this YouTube channel, to help show people how to do that you can trust yourself. You know, the abusive people in our lives will tell us that we can't trust ourselves because we're bad, or because we did things wrong, or we're not competent enough, and they come up with all kinds of reasons. But truthfully, this is just abusive language, and we don't have to take that as real feedback at all. We can just ignore it and go ahead and do our own thing to have a beautiful life, and it's worth doing our own thing to have a beautiful life. I hope you enjoyed my video today about why I started YouTube and why I think it's worth putting myself out there, even if I get the weird comment once in a while. Like, it's so valuable to share this information, and I know I'm finding people and reaching people who really need to hear this information, and it's helping them get out of abusive relationships. So I hope you enjoyed my video today about that, and I can't wait to talk to you next time. And let me know in the comments below if you're comfortable with public speaking. Is it worth it if you've got a message to share with the world? Or are you the type of person who wants to help in a different way? You know, maybe there are other ways to serve rather than going on YouTube and talking about concepts that are important to you. Maybe you just do it quietly by folding the laundry, and that's great too. So I hope you're all having a wonderful week, and take care. Bye now.